To give a example that I'm sure all of us are familiar with is Ash Ketchum from Pokemon getting a Charizard when he was not strong enough to control it. It's the exact same story.
I can't say I remember that episode, but I'm
just imagining your DM screaming whenever you summon this thing. You don't have enough badges to train me! And providing you no details as to what those badges may be.
Welcome to Monsters Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornigal.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And we'll be hanging out with you for a while to talk about anything and everything D&D related. On this episode, we are taking a look at the Drakewarden, one of the new subclasses added in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons.
Ooh.
So, let's dive into it.
Well, before we do, I would just like to say we are, if you're watching this relatively soon after it coming out, we are going to be doing a giveaway of this book. So if you want a chance to win either a physical or D&D Beyond copy, your choice, follow the link in the description, and there will be a link to our Reddit post. Leave a comment, and again, you can win a chance to get this book, this new book with all of its great things. So do that. And as Kevin mentioned, we're going to be discussing the Drakewarden, the new Ranger subclass. So this is a kind of like a Beastmaster that focuses on dragons and gets a little Drake that they get to raise and then one day ride. And I'm sure this has been something everybody has always wanted to do, right? Just ride a dragon into combat.
Of course.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Like in real life, outside of D&D, yes.
Yeah. So the description is your connection to the natural world takes the form of a draconic spirit, which can manifest in a physical form as a drake. As your powers grow, your drake grows as well, blossoming from a small four-legged companion to a majestic winged creature large and strong enough for you to ride. And of course, you get some little dragony powers too. The Ranger as a whole, if you are familiar with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which, boy, I don't know how you stumbled here if you're not, is usually considered one of the weaker classes in 5th edition. I take some argument with that depending on the subclass, but I think this will definitely be exciting to see if this is a subclass that measures up and makes the Ranger a worthwhile play, or if it's going to be a little on the weaker side. We'll see.
Yeah. Ranger, their core is not the greatest, so it's super subclass dependent. Though it's gotten better with the optional features. Yeah,
the optional features in Tasha's definitely help things out. And if you want to see us discuss those, click the thingy right there. And if you don't, then just stay here and just listen to us talk about the Drakewarden. So let's start by going through some of these features. Starting off at 3rd level, we have Draconic Gift. So this is the bond you share with your Drake creates a connection to dragonkind, granting you understanding and empowering your presence. You gain the following benefits. Thaumaturgy as a spell. So you learn the Thaumaturgy cantrip, which is a ranger spell for you. Thaumaturgy is a pretty simple cantrip. You can make some noises. You can clean yourself, or is that prestidigitation?
That's you're thinking prestidigitation. Thaumaturgy is when you you grow and make your voice booming, and it's what basically what Gandalf did and early on in beginning of Lord of the Rings to make I think it was Bilbo drop the ring and
sure.
I shouldn't have went into detail on that because I realized I don't remember it all, and there's people who absolutely do. But Gandalf uses it early on in the first Lord of the Rings.
But it's not like called thaumaturgy. That's just like an example.
No. Yeah.
It wasn't Tolkien was just like, yes, and then Gandalf used thaumaturgy, a cantrip. Like when did Lord of the Rings get such a hard magic system?
Right.
So I mean, a basic cantrip, I don't really know what it has to do with dragons specifically. I guess you can make your voice booming like a dragon.
Yeah, dragons are scary.
And thaumaturgy is scary, so it all works out.
Yeah, that's kind of like you embody, okay, so a lot of dragons have the frightening presence.
Mm-hmm.
And their stat block, I don't know if that's the exact name, but
frightening presence is correct.
Yeah, make people scared of them just by existing. It's just tapping into that, is how I see it. the detail, like you just pick one of the effects. Like your voice booms up to 3 times as loud. You cause flames to flicker, brighten, dim, or change color. Harmless tremors in the ground for 1 minute.
Okay, like, that all does sound pretty dragony.
Yeah.
Very minor dragon stuff. And then you get Tongue of Dragons, so you learn to speak, read, and write Draconic or one other language of your choice. And of course, the one other language of your choice thing being in there in case for some reason you get Draconic from another background feature, racial feature, whatever. So you get another language.
That would be fun. So you don't have that, and then you become a Drakewarden, and then just take like Orcish.
Right, so you just never learn Draconic. It's not part of your background. No. You just ignore it the entire time.
Yep.
I'm glad that they've started doing this. I think this was like a complaint of mine when The Alchemist was originally coming out. Maybe it was just the UA. I don't even remember. But I remember saying that there was I took issue with it because you got an ability at 3rd level that would like give you Tinkerer's tools. And it was like, well, I'm going to have Tinkerer's tools already by the time I'm 3rd level. So now I'm just getting a completely dead feature. Well, they've started doing this in this direction. Obviously, they listened to us. Somebody at Wizards of the Coast.
That must be it.
Listening to Monsters and Multiclass and has revised the way they do things. So yeah, you get a free language. This is all just a little ribbon ability, but some neat things to make you feel more dragony.
For sure. Luckily, it's not all they get at 3rd.
Yeah, that would be embarrassing. End of the episode. No, it's not good. Let's move on. What they do also get is the Drake Companion. So this is their beast companion that is going to be pretty similar to the recent revised Beastmaster companion option with its own little spin on it. I think companions in general, if you look at like the Wildfire Druid, the Steel Defender from the Alchemist, or not the Alchemist, the Artificer, these are forming a bit of a trend or a pattern with how they are displayed, but I will go over it regardless. So as an action, you can magically summon the Drake that is bound to you, and it appears within 30 feet of you in an unoccupied space. Of course, no dragon drops. Wow, that was not an intentional pun, but I'm gonna just move on. The Drake is friendly to you and your companions, and it obeys your commands. See its game statistics below, and when you summon the Drake, choose a damage type listed in the Draconic Essence trait. You can determine the cosmetic characteristics of your Drake, such as color, scale texture, or any visible effects of the Draconic Essence. Your choice has no effect on its game statistics. Ooh. In combat, the Drake shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours, and it can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes on its turn is the dodge action unless you take a bonus action to command it. And the action has to be one in its stat block or some other action. So I guess really anything. I don't even know why it says that. It has to be an action in its stat block or what?
There's the list of all the actions characters could do. So it's saying one of those if it makes sense physically or something in its stat block. It's saying both. It doesn't.
Makes sense.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, so then we get the Drake remains until it is reduced to 0 HP, until you use this feature to summon the Drake again, or until you die. Anything the Drake was wearing or carrying is left behind when the Drake vanishes. Once you summon the Drake, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 1st level or higher to summon it. So nothing out of the ordinary there. That's basically been how creature companions have worked for the last year or two now. So yeah, nothing too outlandish.
Right.
Shall we go over the actual Drake companion?
Yeah.
That seems like the important thing, right?
The one that looks like nutrition facts.
Yeah.
That's all I can see. It's we're doing this based off of there was an official preview of this release, so we're recording before the book actually came out. And in there's these like orange banners above it, and it makes it look identical to just like nutrition facts, at least American nutrition facts.
Yeah.
And it's all I can see. Drake companion. How many calories is my Drake companion? Let's see.
It seems like it's 5 plus 5 times my ranger level. That doesn't make any sense. Would you like to read the Drake companion?
Sure. So it is a small dragon. Challenge rating obviously is going to vary here. It has an armor class of 14 plus your proficiency bonus. Hit points equal to 5 plus 5 times your ranger level, and they have hit dice of d10s equal to your ranger level, and speed of 40 feet. Strength of 16, dex of 12, con of 15, int of 8, wisdom of 14, and charisma of 8. One thing I find interesting is those never go up or change.
I don't think they normally do. Like, I don't think any of the other companions have that. Anything that does change are things just tied to proficiency bonus. So, like, you'll note afterwards it has saving throws in dexterity and wisdom. So those kind of increase.
That's true. Yeah, I guess there's other ways around it. So yeah, saving throws of dexterity of 1 plus proficiency bonus, or wisdom of 2 plus proficiency bonus. So
yeah,
that scales in that way. It has damage immunities determined by its draconic essence trait.
So that's depending on whichever type you choose at the start, really.
Right. And is that every time you summon it? I missed that.
It actually says down there in draconic essence.
That's down at the bottom.
Yeah.
When you summon Drake. Okay. I thought it was in the text, not the stat block.
Yeah.
I got mixed up. Senses of dark vision out to 40 feet, passive perception of 12, and it knows draconic.
Oh my gosh. So if you didn't learn draconic, you wouldn't even be able to talk to your little Drake.
Right.
Be the worst draconic ranger ever.
All right, it has the draconic essence feature, which we were just talking about. When you summon the Drake, choose a damage type of acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison, and then that determines the Drake's immunity and damage for strikes down below. Real basic dragon stuff. Anytime there's dragony things, that seems to be choose an elemental damage type.
It's nice that they just get straight immunity to it, though. Like, that's pretty powerful.
It is, especially if you know. Well, okay, I was gonna say if you know where you're going, like if you know you're going into like a volcano to fight a bunch of lava monsters, pick fire. But then that means this thing's doing a lot of fire damage, which what you're fighting is probably immune to as well.
Yeah, that part is a bit of a bummer, isn't it?
Yeah, but it does have its bite attack, which is just a weapon attack plus 3 to hit, plus your proficiency bonus. Reach of 5 feet on a hit does 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus in piercing damage. So it always has that to fall back on. Not a crazy amount, though. And then it does have a 1 reaction infused strike, so when another creature within 30 feet of the Drake that it could see hits a target with a weapon attack, the Drake infuses the strike with its essence, causing the target to take an extra 1d6 damage of the type determined by the draconic essence.
Also pretty cool. And just helpful. I think you're right, though. Anytime where you're trying to like pre-plan and think like, okay, we're going into a poisonous cavern, so I'm going to do poisons, that way my dragon is immune to it. You're kind of not getting the full benefit of this other ability. And so far, I mean, at these low levels, it's not like it has much else to it. You know, like some of the other companions that we've seen, specifically the Steel Defender from the Artificer class, it like has the Force Rend, so that you can like grant advantage or disadvantage on an attack. And I guess that's really its special thing. I don't think it has much else, but this one is just the infused strike. So really, it's a little extra damage. So it's a very damaging companion, but that's really about it. It's not doing any other type of like interesting control features so far.
Right. Yeah, I'm a little underwhelmed. Right now, it just really seems just a different flavor option from Beast Companion, Beastmaster, from the Tasha's rewrite. That is
right,
because all like that huge, like those paragraphs of text explaining how it works and the bonus action to command it and blah blah blah. That's basically identical. That's almost copy and paste at this point between all different companions and summons and stuff. And then its stat block is not any better. In some ways, it's worse than the Beastmaster companions, the new ones, the Beast of the Land, Sea, and Sky. Because with those, every time you summon it, you get to pick. So you could change based on what you're doing. This one, it's always a Drake, and you just kind of change the elemental type.
Right.
Where the Beast of the Land is just as tanky. It'll have 1 less AC, 13 plus proficiency versus 14. Same amount of health, does more damage, and it has its charge ability to be able to do extra damage and knock things down.
Yeah, so it's got like some more things to it than just pure damage, which is interesting. The beast of the land, that is, being able to knock things prone is really helpful, and you can combine that with things that the ranger does. So there's like some synergy that you're getting out of it.
Right. Beast of the Sea has a grapple.
Right.
But of course
it's also worth noting, we did say that it is copy and paste, and that's mostly true, but this particular alteration can only act after you, which would make things like the charge not work quite as well.
That's a good point.
Oh, the Beast Companion? Does the Drake get its own initiative?
No, the Drake, it acts on your turn, but after yours.
But the primal companions,
they both
the same
do.
thing.
It
same
shares
thing.
your initiative
Yes.
count.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I would say it's on par. Which I guess is fine. Like, obviously we don't want this to like make the Beastmaster just crap, like making this the obvious pick if you want that.
But
then you kind of get in. It's like, why even bother? Just
why even make another subclass is my question.
Exactly.
Like this, so far, again, we've got more to go, but so far this very well could have just been another companion option for the Beastmaster, and it would be now just a reflavoring of the Beastmaster subclass.
And yeah, they add new infusions or Eldritch Invocations and stuff like that to classes all the time.
Right.
So I don't think it would be confusing to say, here's a new Beastmaster pick.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of these subclass features do fall in line, but I think I'm definitely going to be keeping the lens of, could this have been achieved by just like putting some scaling in the stat block? One of them at 7th level, kind of jumping ahead here, is the bite attack does extra damage. Like, could that not have been put in the stat block? Like at level 7, it does extra damage. I don't know. But I guess with that, we'll move on to the bond of Fang and Scale, unless you got more to say around this.
No.
Okay.
No, let's keep going.
All right.
It does.
All right. So for this, the bond of Fang and Scale is the 7th level feature. The bond you share with your Drake intensifies, protecting you and stoking the Drake's fury. When you summon your Drake, it gains a swimming speed equal to its walking speed and can breathe both air and water, or it grows wings on its back and gains a flying speed equal to its walking speed. Your choice. In addition, while your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits. First off, Drake mount. The Drake grows to medium size, reflecting your special bond. You can use the Drake as a mount even if your size is medium. While you are riding the Drake, it can't use the flying speed of this feature. Next is Magic Fang. The Drake's bite attack deals an extra 1d6 damage of the type chosen for the Drake's draconic essence. And then lastly, Resistance. You gain resistance to the damage type chosen for the Drake's draconic essence. So that is definitely more than you would just be able to put into a stat block. I get the feeling. I mean, that's unless you just made a second stat block at level 7, but even then it's a little bit weird, and that would be too powerful for the standard Beastmaster class, because that gets its own features at 7th level. But
yeah, their attack's kind of magical.
Yeah. But this one, I say it does still kind of have that awkwardness where like you're getting resistance to a damage type, but it has to be the damage type that you choose. So is that really helpful? Sometimes. Against spell damage, yes. And maybe sometimes you're sacrificing doing the extra damage yourself because you need the resistance or you want your Drakewarden to have the immunity. I guess I like the fact that there's somewhat of a trade-off there that can be interesting, but it is disappointing when you can't feel like you're using all of your features at once. And I think it would be seldom that you have a chance for a Draconic Essence to be affecting both damage and the resistance and immunities coming into play, unless you're facing a spellcaster and they, cast Fireball on you and you've got it set to fire. Okay, then it's great.
Sure, yeah.
And you're super happy that you chose fire that day. So I think a lot of times that's just going to be more of a flavorful choice. I don't know it really depends on the person who's playing it and the character concept, but I think a lot of times people are going to stick with a specific type of damage. Unless there's some major reason to switch it up. You have in your backstory, you met a blue dragon. So you're most of the time going to make a lightning Drake in order to represent that and just consistently have some lightning resistance.
Right.
Other areas where it can be nice to have that immunity, just to kind of keep talking about that, if your spellcasters in your party want to cast a specific type of damage, you have a wizard with fireball yourself, then your Drake can be up in the fray and is immune to that fire damage, and that can be nice. So it can be in AoEs and not have to worry about it. But what about the mounting aspect? Is there any real benefit to that?
So yeah, I wanted to bring that one up. It's neat. I feel like mounted combat in D&D is pretty iffy to begin with. Where like if you're taking direct control over it, then it loses its attacks and things like that.
Right.
But with this one, can you get away with it where like you're riding it and you have its movement speed and things like that, but you could still attack and it could still attack because it's an intelligent companion. It gets messy. Mounting is weird in 5th edition.
I think by virtue of it being you forcing it to attack, that's kind of overridden.
Right.
Because you're using like your bonus action to command it.
Exactly. That said, I don't like dragons. I don't really like riding dragons. I don't think you should ride a dragon at your table.
Wow, that's helpful. That's so helpful.
Why? Just pure intolerance to dragons.
One of these days we're gonna do a dragon episode and dig into the dragon that hurt you, Will, and really figure out what makes you dislike dragons.
Like crack that
nut. Also, this could be accomplished through just the Beastmaster. So, like, the Beast of the Land is small. Is medium. You could be a small character and ride it. Same with Beast of the Sea. Beast of the Sky is small, so you can't do that. But
yeah, it's possible, but having to be a small creature limits a lot. I mean, you have character options at the very least. So yes, it can be accomplished if your specific goal is, I want to be a ranger that rides my companion. That's fine, but you are now looking at like what halflings and gnomes and maybe a couple other, I guess, depending on which races are allowed.
And now like kobolds and goblins now.
Sure, right. So yeah,
what races are allowed.
I guess there are a lot of options, but up to you if that's part of your character concept. This one doesn't care. It's just whatever you want.
Right. I think they could have kept the flying speed. Like if you did the one where it's flying, just let him have a flying mount at 7th. They can't carry anyone else. Say it's just the ranger.
Right. Yeah, it's a little odd to me, especially because it's not like they are afraid of giving a fly speed at lower levels, especially if we look at the Twilight Cleric, which is able to have a fly speed at only 6th level as long as it's in dim light. And that's something that came out in Tasha's, and we talked about how that's a really strong feature, but mainly because it has the ability to do a bunch of other stuff. If you want to check out that episode, I will not go into that too long. We'll place another link here. Twilight Domain is probably not the best thing to base any other class features on. It's pretty strong, but it's been done, and I feel like this one, I've not been so floored at how strong it is that a fly speed would like ruin it.
Right, or there's races that have fly speed at level 1.
Okay.
Right.
We bring this up a lot, and I think we we waffle back and forth. It's like, oh, everyone can fly. But that's not really true. And the Twilight Domain is completely broken. We have a wonderful episode detailing that. And it's also limited. Whereas this would not be limited in really any way. Which is, I think, the distinction that means it shouldn't be there.
Kinda. It's not... The ranger doesn't have a fly speed. The ranger can mount a Drake, which has a fly speed. That is a distinction.
Which is a distinction without a difference in a lot of situations.
So if it just had a fly speed, then like the ranger, like in a dungeon, could just pop up into the air, 10 feet very easily, move around, whatever. Where if I could very easily see it being ruled, no, your Drake does not have room to fly in this space. It is like it's
pretty small, but sure, that's reasonable enough. And also, fly is a 3rd level spell, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that gets online at 5th level, basically. And that's not that limited. I mean, sure, the wizard or whoever is able to learn it has to know the spell and has to expend a resource, but I don't feel like it's so far-fetched to say at 7th level you can have a fly speed. Heck, even if they wanted to keep it, maybe make it half the speed. So when you are mounted on your Drake, it's got 20 feet fly speed instead of 40.
Sure.
Just your comically exhausted Drake companion.
Yeah. Something like that. So yeah, I mean, it might get around some puzzles, if you want to say that, but it's not able to carry absolutely everybody. In an instance where you do want to carry more than one thing, I mean, we've gotten around that in our game around these levels with the Druid's wild shape turning into a giant eagle. And that's much more frustrating than this would be to me. Because that's like long distances. This is nowhere near the fly speed.
Right.
At least I think. I forget what giant eagles. They might have 40 as well, but they can carry like 2 creatures.
Yeah.
Their fly speed.
Yeah, and I did the math. They can carry like a wagon.
Like a
There's a definite difference.
Like a red flyer or like a covered wagon.
Why would it be able to carry that? Those don't exist.
Red flyers or covered wagons? Wait, both of those things exist.
Former.
I'm talking about like
I don't think there's like
because
there's
you
like
had it
kids
as a
red.
kid.
Okay.
Peasants know wagons because they live in them. I think.
You've never been a D&D peasant? Do you just imagine every time we're playing, anytime you're talking to a peasant, they're just like, they just have a wagon? Like, they don't have homes?
Where's this guy's wagon? Where does he live?
So, I don't know. I mean, I'm somewhat on the fence, but I stand by the fact that I haven't been so blown away by the rest of the class up to this point that I feel like a fly speed is going too far. And that's
Exactly,
that's it.
yeah. But let's keep going, because it keeps... The whole point of this is the Drake grows with you and grows stronger.
Yeah.
All right, at 11th, they get Drake's Breath. As an action, you can exhale a 30-foot cone of damaging breath or cause your Drake to exhale it. Choose acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage. Your choice does not have to match the Draconic Essence choice, which is flavor-wise odd, but mechanically neat, I guess, is how I'll put that. Each creature in the cone must make a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC, taking 8d6 damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a success. This damage increases to 10d6 at 15th. Once you use this, you can't do this again until you finish a long rest, or you expend a 3rd level slot or higher. 8d6 happens to be the exact amount of damage of a fireball, so I think that's got like a good comparison to it. 30-foot cone versus 20-foot radius sphere. Is that fireball 20 foot? It's not, whatever.
Yeah, it's a 20-foot radius, yeah.
Yeah, so 40 foot, yeah. I'd call it comparable, and then you get a free one, and you can change the damage type every time you do it, or then the 3rd level spell after. I think it's a good ability. It's just maybe online a little late at 11th.
So that said, it may come on a little bit late, but Rangers don't get 3rd level spells until 9th level. So
that's a good point.
It's like kind of close, and it's the closest I guess, ability after they get 3rd level spells, since there's only 7th and 11th, and it would have been weird if they just threw this in at 9th level when there's normally not one.
Right, and 7th would be probably too strong.
Right. Now, I guess you could have some other argument of like, well, maybe it should have been a 7th level feature, and if it was 7th level, then it should be less damage and more comparable to a 2nd level spell, but that's a little bit more adjusting than I'd get down with. I'd say it's probably fine at 11th level. It's an alright feature. Yeah. Good damage.
I think it's solid. Rangers kind of lack that AoE damage. They have like AoE control spells and stuff they could get, but just like the big damage stuff. So it opens it. I like how it could be from you or the dragon.
Yep.
So that's kind of nice.
Definitely very
and
cool.
again, going back to being able to change the elemental type when you cast it is kind of amazing. That flexibility is awesome.
Yeah, it actually makes me want there to be just like a kind of a blanket thing at this level, like at 11th level, basically saying this Drake's Breath or your infused strikes can be whatever element type you want. Meaning it's like you're growing stronger, growing more in tune with the draconic nature that is there, and you're able to now manifest it differently than what you originally summoned it as. So sure, you've got fire resistance and fire immunity, but if you are in that situation where you're fighting fire creatures, you can do different damage types. So not that this 11th level ability is super weak or super strong. Again, I think it's kind of middling, which is good. But if there was just that little extra benefit of now your infused strike can be whatever damage type you want when you do it, I think that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. I love when you do that. That they give you like this one thing, just this tiny like, hey, you don't have to be locked down. You're like, oh, that's really, really, really cool. Can I not be locked down in anything now? There's just this greed to it that I appreciate.
It's called I'm trying to fine tune it, Will.
You're like grasping. You're like, ooh, but I want this and this, like a kid at a candy store. Well, and I can't blame you, but like I disagree.
Isn't that the fun of leveling up though? Is like getting more features, getting more control over earlier features, taking things that were kind of crappy or bad before and saying like, here's more options. Like any of the wild magic barbarian stuff where it's like, yeah, at 14th level, roll twice and take the one you actually want. Something that should definitely come online earlier, but that kind of class progression and making older or earlier features better is there's precedent. It's good and I like it. So screw you, Will.
One thing to keep in mind in terms of changing that, so it's when you summon the Drake and you get the free summon for an action once per long rest, or just an action in a first level spell slot. I don't see any reason why you can't have the Drake summoned and then you spend an action in a first level spell to resummon it with a new Draconic Essence choice.
Oh yeah, you definitely could.
Yeah, so that's not that high of a cost to change it. So you kind of already have that functionality there.
Right, but then you're not resistant and immune to the damage type. So like if you're fighting an elemental creature, you can't have it be perfect. And I want it to be perfect, Will. All right, so at 15th level, we have Perfected Bond. Your bond to your Drake reaches the pinnacle of its power. While your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits. Get Empowered Bite. The Drake's bite attack deals an extra 1d6 damage of the type chosen for its Draconic Essence, for now a total of 2d6 extra damage. The Drake grows to large size with the class feature name of Large Drake. That's it. When you ride your Drake, it is no longer prohibited from using the fly speed of Bond of Fang and Scale. So, what were you talking about? Maybe having that at 7th level, you actually got to wait until 15th level, where at this point, flying speed is not a care in the world. So, a little bit late, but whatever. And lastly, we get Reflexive Resistance. When either you or the Drake takes damage while you're within 30 feet of each other, you can use your reaction to give yourself or the Drake resistance to that instance of damage.
So just continue in line of the Drake gets stronger, which again is also somewhat in line with the Beastmaster, but I guess this gets stronger in other ways.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we'll talk about like dips and stuff like that. If you just only go in 3 levels, low level type thing. So I guess I'm skipping ahead to we could talk about specifics of this one in a second, but I'm talking about the big general thing here. I do not see a huge difference between a 3rd level Drakewarden and a 3rd level Beastmaster.
Sure.
But then, it diverts. So I am taking back my criticism from early on. It's like, okay, it diverts enough. And I know I did read this before, but that just didn't.
It was more natural that you came to this conclusion on air. So
yeah, that's usually how it goes. I'll sit down, I'll read the stuff, and I have my thoughts. And then that was like 3 days ago. And then I quickly looked through. It was like, oh yeah, I remember my thoughts.
Right.
Then we talked through it. It's like, no, I'm an idiot. This is why our conversational thing works. I don't think like I could do this solo where I just like talk at a camera about.
Yeah. No, say that usually happens to me too, but the voice in my head calling me an idiot is just Will.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a given.
Yeah.
I mean, so is mine.
I would agree with you, though. I do think they definitely did make it unique enough that it didn't need to be a battle master. My question may come back
Beastmaster.
Beastmaster. It's a fighter subclass now. My question is I guess, did it need to be a separate one in the first place, or could like the flavor have been achieved with less work? And that's really it. And I don't have that as a complaint, more of just like a unnecessary pontification. That's what we're here for.
Beastmaster is a relic of shame that was barely salvaged by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, in my opinion. I don't think that class is very interesting or fun, even to this day. It was just plucked out of oblivion and complete uselessness and replaced with something that actually works. I appreciate this as a unique class in its own right.
The Drakewarden.
Yes.
Yeah. It does have that feeling more of like growing with your companion here, which I know I just said Beastmaster has that, but there does feel this disconnect. I think maybe because you could change it every time. And so it's like you're just summoning between these different beast types. It's kind of more like you're a summoner, not that you have an animal friend. And obviously you could roleplay where that's not the case and you only just pick one and stick with it. But then you're kind of hindering yourself. Or same if you go to the pre-Tasha's one where you do just pick one. And then like that's a really weak class overall. I like with this one how it's kind of nails both between the flavor of it combining well with the mechanics that you two are really growing strongly together.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that this definitely was an attempt, I think, at making Beastmaster a more... It's a different type of Beastmaster, obviously, but it's trying to make that more of a option for the Ranger. So it definitely feels a little bit stronger than the Beastmaster. Gets some more damage, definitely, and some more options. The ability to ride it, I think, is something that would have been fitting for Beastmaster, but as we talked about earlier, is really only possible in some niche cases of you being small or your DM being nice, but that's kind of outside the rules there. But we still haven't talked about the 15th level features.
Right. Yeah, sorry, we're jumping around.
Before we do all this, really, I mean, the Empowered Bite, not much to talk about. The Large Drake, I guess we've talked about. You can fly now. Great. But then the Reflex...
Empowered Bite, it is important, though, that the damage scales nicely. It's not just... That's another failing, I think, of Beastmaster one, where it just scales based off of your proficiency bonus. So it's like plus 1 extra damage, like every few levels. That's not a ton. And then all of a sudden it gets... extra attack, which is like this huge jump. I like how this one scales.
Right, and for that one, it takes until 11th, for Beastmaster, it takes until 11th level in order to get the extra attack.
Right. But this one at 7th, and then again at 15th, and then, you're going 3d6 plus 3 plus, what's your proficiency bonus at 15th? 6?
No, it's still 5, I think.
5? Okay, so 3d6 plus 8 for a bonus action every turn. And then with the Infused Strike, for somebody to do an extra 1d6.
Okay. Yes, your proficiency bonus goes up to plus 6 at 17th level.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good damage just once per turn. I do generally like multi-attack more because that means more chances to crit and less potentially wasted turns. But I think even if the bite doesn't hit, the reaction of this Infused Strike, just getting an extra 1d6 damage for free for somebody is pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. And that should stack with Hunter's Mark. So if it's to the Ranger who has Hunter's Mark up, you get a little bonus action dependent there, because Hunter's Mark is a bonus action to get up.
But you don't need a bonus action to use its reaction.
No, you don't.
Because that's just a thing that it kind of does independently of you. So if for some reason you do need Hunter's Mark, you're not like, it's not like, oh, I won't be able to get any benefit out of my Drake this turn. It's still soaking up damage, which I don't think we've mentioned, but that is one of the major benefits as you get into the mid-tier levels with one of these creatures. I mean, adding an extra 5 plus 5 times your ranger level to the battlefield in HP starts to add up pretty quickly. I mean, that's damage that it can take, and you can bring it back for only a first level spell slot and a action.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a bit tanky. It's kind of, like I said, kind of in line with the land beast one, which is also tanky. So it has 1 extra AC, but the 14 plus your proficiency bonus in AC is actually pretty solid. 16 AC when you first get this. Not too long after going up to 17 AC. Like, I mean, there's a lot of player characters that's like that's where they sit indefinitely.
And even looking at some of the other companions, not comparing it to the Beastmaster, but like the Artificer, which is a half caster with a companion, so that's a pretty direct comparison. That is armor class of 15 forever. That does not stack or go up ever. The hit points, though, are calculated a little bit differently, and I'm not sure why it says the Ranger's Drake is a D10 hit die, and the Steel Defender is a D8. The HP for the Steel Defender is 2 plus your intelligence modifier, plus 5 times your Artificer level, and says that the Steel Defender has D8s equal to your Artificer level. So if it's a D10, officially that should be 6, not 5 that you get per level. So I don't know why they said it's a D10.
I don't know.
Is this stuff? I think it's something that only I care about. I think, but
maybe
officially, your Steel Defender will end up with a little bit more health, but just barely. I mean, we're talking about like 2 HP more because it's 2 plus your intelligence modifier, so you can get a 7 plus 5 times your Artificer level.
Oh, right.
But that doesn't really matter.
But
the thing that does matter,
much less AC.
Right. But the thing that does matter is that the AC is significantly higher and goes up significantly higher. I mean, if you get your proficiency bonus all the way up to plus 6, you've got 20 AC on your companion, and that's really nice.
Mm-hmm. You said not so much to say about Large Drake because we already talked about that, but not so much mechanically, but just role-playing flavor. I kind of love it. Because you will now have a large companion, like a large dragon that's a companion. That's true. That kind of makes you stand out. That's just like a cool character concept. I like that idea. And you really don't see it. Everything else is medium or small.
Right. But this is like straight up riding into town with a large drake. Now, at this point, since it is large, do you start to allow other members of your party to ride along? If you wanted to have 2 people on it, not so much for combat, but more for like out of combat stuff, I feel like you start to follow the more strength-based rules where, like we talked about with the Giant Eagle, they have a strength of, I think, 16. I don't remember. Maybe Will still has it up, but it's comparable strength. And we've had multiple times where 2 people were on it because that made sense for the weight capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say probably 2, just kind of take a common sense approach to it. I don't think you need to math it out every time and take their equipment and gear into it. Just, and then you could maybe easily say, in combat, it's going to be difficult because sure, it could physically carry you, but it's not having the speed needed for combat.
Right.
If you don't want to open it up, or just let it open up and they figure out some cool combos where it's the ranger with a longbow riding on the back of a dragon with his wizard behind him casting down fire spells. Like, all right, that's kind of cool.
That's really
or lightning
cool.
spells. Yeah, just let it happen. It's fine.
And this is 15th level. This is where I say, yes, everyone can fly.
Yeah, definitely agree. I say at that point, it's just more about the coolness factor and let things be cool because it's 15th level D&D. The game's already broken in some way or another. As a DM, you've been adjusting to it for this length of time. Just keep doing that. If the party is riding around on the Drake, find an enemy who has that thing that forces dragons to come to the ground, or just I think it just removes flying speed.
Earthbind.
Yeah, Earthbind.
Earthbind. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. The spell that usually doesn't work on dragons, but on a Drake with +3 strength, yeah, it's probably going to work.
And no saving throw bonus either.
Yep.
Right.
Or legendary resistances. That's what this class needed. Legendary resistances.
Yes, that's what this class
Give the
really,
trick.
really fucked up. It should have eventually just become like pick a dragon, bud.
Right.
You can pick any dragon.
At 20th
Even
level,
Tiamat.
it's just Tiamat.
Yeah. You just get Tiamat's your pale.
For a first level spell slot.
So then talking about the reflexive resistance, that is pretty good ability. Again, when either you or the Drake takes damage, and it's been like 20 minutes since I originally read it, when either you or the Drake takes damage while you're within 30 feet of each other, you can use a reaction to give yourself or the Drake resistance to that instance of damage. So pretty good feature. This is also, well, it's better than that rogue feature actually, because there's the uncanny dodge, but that
That's
specifically is on
when-
attacks.
Right. And then, yeah. And the evasion, which is on dex saving throws.
Right. This is
So
just
they
wide open.
any force of damage. Yeah. Or kind of what I would compare it to is absorb elements.
Mm-hmm.
First level spell reaction. But that's only certain damage types, fire, acid, lightning, things like that. This says, yeah, literally any damage,
Yeah,
which is neat.
definitely like that. One thing I was a little surprised by is going with you saying absorb elements, because that seems pretty fitting. They don't get a list of spells. Usually, they have it so that the Rangers get a list of spells, at least for the ones that came out in Tasha's, Fey
New
Wanderer
ones.
and the
Swarmkeeper.
Swarmkeeper. They got a spell at 3rd, 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th that was just always prepared. And this class does not get that at all. I guess their spell is being able to summon a dragon, though.
Yeah. I think it could have benefited from it. You're right. I didn't pick up on that, but I'm surprised they didn't, because usually once they like start doing that, you'll start seeing it. That's how it goes. Like all druids now have like a unique way to use their wild shape. Rangers were getting spells, but apparently not anymore.
And that's
same with
for
sorcerers
not
now, right? New sorcerers do. Yeah.
That's been for every single non-player's handbook ranger from since Xanathars is really what I'm getting at. Monster
Right.
Slayer, the Horizon Walker, Gloomstalker, all of them had some spells. Hopefully that wasn't just like left out of the preview, and it's not going to like have the official release in a couple days here and prove us wrong. But from what I'm seeing, no spells.
Wasn't this officially given as the...
Yep. But
this
I mean,
is the whole subclass? Yeah.
That's what they said. So maybe if Wizards of
that'd
the
be
Coast
neat.
would just directly send us books early, we wouldn't have these issues. Huh, Wizards? You're obviously listening to us. You've taken a lot of suggestions. One day that'll work.
Right.
So then let's kind of talk about the class as a whole. I think, personally, I actually like where it ended up. I think that at earlier levels, it doesn't feel like anything drastic, but that's how I've always felt with these companion types, because they start with such little HP at the beginning. It's hard to make them like a major focal point of your combat. You could probably expect to have a few combats where they might not even be involved, but that could be said for Barbarian's Rages or a Wizard's Spells in the first couple of levels, where they only are going to have a couple first level or second level spells and relying on cantrips more often. But near the 7th level or so, it picks up pretty nicely, and I feel like it's pretty solid.
No, I definitely agree. I think this would be a fun one to play, as long as you're getting up there in level.
Mm-hmm.
As you were just kind of saying. I mean, it's fine at lower ones. It's just not particularly compelling
The only thing I will,
to me.
even to combat my own words there, it's a lot of damage at low levels. Because at 3rd level, you would have basically a bonus action attack, as well as this infused strike as a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So you are definitely going to be putting out more damage than just about anybody else.
Yeah. I say the bonus action for an extra 1d6 plus 2, then it's free reaction. It doesn't use your reaction, right?
Mhm.
It's just for an extra 1d6. And then say you have Hunter's Mark up.
Another
it's an extra
D6.
3d6 plus 2. plus whatever your actual weapon is, say D8.
Yeah.
Plus, 4, 5, whatever.
Sure. Plus like 1 billion because your DM gave you a cool magic weapon.
Right. Yeah, that is really solid damage.
And then
you got a cool little dragon buddy.
And so let's talk about some of the origins. So usually they provide like a little table of ways that this may have come about. Obviously, they are just inspiration and not the only options you get for your Drakewarden character. But yeah, definitely need to talk about the roleplay ability of the class beyond having a dragon, because that's really all it's been so far, is you got a dragon. So some of these origins, first one we have is you studied a dragon's scale or claw or a trinket from a dragon's hoard, creating your bond through the token's lingering draconic magic. Second one is a secret order of rangers who collect and guard draconic lore taught you their ways. Third, a dragon gave you a geode or gemstone to care for. To your surprise, the drake hatched from that stone. 4, you ingested a few drops of dragon blood, forever infusing your nature magic with draconic power. 5, an ancient draconic inscription on a standing stone empowered you when you read it aloud. And lastly, you had a vivid dream of a mysterious figure accompanied by 7 yellow canaries who warned you of an impending doom. When you awoke, your drake was there, watching you. So a lot kind of in line with like a sorcerer origin almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually meant to say this at the beginning. This kind of feels like mushing together the Beastmaster Ranger and the Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer.
Yeah. Which, I mean, makes sense. Depending on your game, I doubt finding and raising a dragon is going to be like a common thing that just anybody can do.
Right.
But I could see a lot of roleplay ability from trying to learn how to control that magic once you have it in your hands. However it comes about, it would be pretty terrifying. And I'm sure a lot of people would be like, you've got a literal dragon that you are raising. And though it's obviously not reflected in the mechanics at all, and probably shouldn't be, it could be a role-playing aspect of trying to control the dragon. To give a example that I'm sure all of us are familiar with is Ash Ketchum from Pokemon getting a Charizard when he was not strong enough to control it. It's the exact same story.
I can't say I remember that episode, but I'm
just imagining your DM screaming whenever you summon this thing, "You don't have enough badges to train me!" And providing you no details as to what those badges may be.
It could make sense. The dragon has to... So that concept, not to like use Pokemon as like a great narrative crutch or anything, but I think the concept is pretty sound. The idea that the Drake needs to respect you as a master. And I wouldn't say gym badges are the right way to acquire that respect, but if you want it to be something so on the nose, that's fine. This character can be Ash Ketchum if you want it to. That's on you. But having some form of trials, maybe they meet with another Drakewarden or people who are of this, as it says, which one was it? A secret order of rangers who collect and guard draconic lore taught you their ways. So maybe that isn't how you came about the origin in the first place, but it is how you learn to control it, harness it, and grow with the dragon and earn its respect. And maybe it's like my favorite Cuba Gooding Jr. movie, Snow Dogs, and you have to bite the ear of the Drake.
Beautiful.
I don't know why I reference Snow Dogs as much as I do in my life, but... I don't know if it's the first time on the show, but it's not the first time in the last month.
No, it's definitely not.
Such a bad movie.
You got a Snow Dogs problem.
Don't even like it. It's a really bad movie.
But I love the overall concept of, yes, it's a lot of cool role-playing moments of kind of fighting with and trying to work with the Drake. I would like to play in the point of having to come to this place of mutual respect, not you are commanding the Drake, and maybe at the beginning that's what you're trying to do. And so you're having issues. Now, if you're starting at level 1, you can almost have it where the Drake is around for level 1 and 2, but does not do anything for you.
Right.
Like, it's magically bound there, but it's not used in combat. Nothing. It just kind of flees and hides. You get no benefits from it, so you don't actually get any of the mechanical stuff, but it's those first 2 levels that you getting to at least a base point where you like come to a mutual understanding and start working together on your 3rd level up.
Right. And I imagine the ranger with like a book of common to draconic as they're like trying to learn it and like teach the Drake basic commands. And it's like, hey, you're like the Dragonborn in the party who that would raise some interesting questions, but the Dragonborn in the party is like, you're pronouncing sit wrong. It's actually Korear, whatever. So
right. Draconic's such an intense language.
Sure it is. It's like when you teach a German Shepherd German commands, because I guess they respond better to them. I've heard. Please don't quote me on that. We're not a dog podcast.
That sounds really made up.
It's very possible it is. Very possible, but I'm still going to steal that and say that it is true for this character.
Sure. Okay.
Use real world myths to make actual lore in your game.
A character concept I think could be really well realized with this is Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon.
Of course.
Multiclassing with an artificer. Let's not talk about the needing intelligence, but other than that would be perfect. Artillerist or armor, either one would work.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my God. If you went, so again, we're going to ignore the stats. Just ignore them. But if you went
dexterity, wisdom, and intelligence all at 13, it's a little rough. But.
I think you could probably focus on dexterity and intelligence and ignore wisdom, because I don't think wisdom's that important for a ranger unless you want to focus on the spells. But if you've got the spell slots, you'll use them on artificer spells, not ranger spells.
Yes.
Make a choice.
Yeah.
But again, that's not what this episode's about. What you could do though is you could totally put your little cannon on top of the dragon, because it can be like small, or like it's definitely not too heavy to be on top of the dragon even before you can mount it, and you can literally have a dragon with a cannon on its back.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the artillerist says it can be handheld, right?
Yeah.
Like it has its legs and move or be handheld.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go.
It wouldn't be a fire dragon that before you get the breath at like 11th level, it just holds on to it and like points out a little gun and shoots the flamethrower.
Right. Holds it up to its mouth to pretend.
Yeah. So the biggest issue of this is, of course, the bonus action economy. You can't control your dragon, but if you don't use your dragon for anything more than making your turret more mobile, it's cool. I would do this for a one shot. It might be tough for like an actual, like, let me build to this character. But if it was like, you're starting at 11th level, I could see doing 7 levels in Drakewarden, 3 levels in Artificer, just getting the cannon and just going to town like that.
Sure. I think armor for more mechanical viability.
What? We're not here for that.
It still matches up with Hiccup.
Yes,
probably
it does.
better than
Artillerist. Yeah, it's worth mentioning.
Really
the artillerist thing wouldn't work.
I'm sorry.
It's cool. It's great.
I was not on the Hiccup train anymore. I totally got off that. I was just on the idea of giving your dragon a cannon.
Sure.
Which is great and cool, but doesn't work.
But it could, okay, stick with me. It could if you had an artificer in your party. Not multiclassing. Ignore the multiclassing. Just a really
just
cool
artificer who just gives the...
Yes.
Okay.
Back on Hiccup, though, because I do love How to Train Your Dragon, and I own all 3 movies on Blu-ray. They are fantastic. I can see that working again, all of the infusions and such. It'd be neat to see if any of the infusions could be given to the dragon. I don't know. We keep saying dragon. Drake, officially. Whatever.
I think that would be tough. Because nothing about it says it could operate items.
Nothing says it can't. And the only thing I will say is that if something just says like it takes an action, it can take other actions.
Yeah.
I'd have to look through. I don't know if there's anything, but even if we look at like, I don't know, Boots of the Winding Path, for example, there's no reason that it can't be boots for your Drake.
Yeah, you could get barding. I was just thinking that. You could get barding for your Drake.
Barding?
Yeah.
Horse armor.
Oh,
basically.
Sorry, I never bought that DLC.
That was good.
Thank you.
Yes, the original not obviously not the very first DLC, but the first popularized from Oblivion way back in the day. And everyone was all up in arms about it.
It was
And then apparently everyone was right to be up in arms around it because it very much was a slippery slope. Because look, we are today,
it was $10 for horse armor, something like that. It was ridiculous. Now people pay.
No, it was like 796 Xbox points.
Yeah, Xbox points
Remember
for
when life
microtransactions.
was like that?
Yes, it was horrible. You're like, oh, how much does this cost? Oh, it costs 75 Microsoft points, and you've got 50. So how much money do you need to pay? We don't know. It was the first Bitcoin.
That's going to upset somebody who really likes Bitcoin.
Or really likes Xbox points. We can upset both sides of the fence. But yes.
But yeah, there's a whole player handbook section about barding and how to do that. It gets really expensive, especially for like exotic things, such as a Drake. But
right. Yeah.
Then you can infuse the barding.
If I remember correctly, I think like horse plate armor was 2 times the cost of... Or maybe it's 3 times. It's exponential. Well, no, it's not exponential. It's just double or triple. That's not how... I'm going to stop talking. It costs a lot more.
Exponential. It's an infinite amount.
Yes.
You want plate horse barding? The world ends. Barding, 4 times the cost, 2 times the weight.
Okay. So dragon armor, which probably isn't too necessary since it gets a really good AC without armor.
Right. Yeah, it probably
My
really doesn't need it,
intuition
but then
is
you
saying
could
that
infuse
the Drake
it.
can't use items.
Your intuition is dumb. Let the dragon use items. I wish they had a picture of it. In the preview, they don't include anything, though, I'm sure. There will be one quite soon. But I'm just wondering if it has hands at all. Regardless, I'm...
Just hands, like
Yes.
people hands.
I mean, dragons have, like, hands, but it doesn't matter. Point is, there are a few infusions that would probably work. Most of them would be things like, I don't know, boots, I guess. If you want to do bracers of defense, maybe give it a +2 AC. Things like that, I feel like if somebody wanted to work with, I could work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we are talking about a Ranger Artificer multiclass or having an Artificer in your party, but for Hiccup specifically, seems fitting, seems fun. I'd let it go.
Yeah. Can you think of any other multi-classes that would either be cool or actually good?
Wow, that's a good question.
The obvious role-playing kind of matching up is this Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer.
Right.
But then your Charisma, Wisdom, and Dex. And again, you could kind of just keep Wisdom at 13. That might be okay. I don't know.
I haven't put much thought into it, but we'll just say from a character concept, yes, that is cool. And
I mean, yeah, you unlock meta magic options for ranger spells.
Yeah,
That'd be kind of the biggest thing. A few extra spell slots to summon your Drake more often.
It's always hard with these subclasses to really multi-class too far into something else, just because the Drake companion relies so much on getting more health.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't continue that scaling, you can make your companion pretty useless rather quickly. Like if you left this at the 3rd level Drake companion with 20 HP and then went all the way down sorcerer because that's what you wanted to focus with, you're going to stop summoning that Drake companion pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. All of these kind of companion summoning ones, it always feels like they barely kind of keep up.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 or 2 levels is often enough to make them really feel like they've fallen behind.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you can get to that like 8 to 10 range, then you might be able to do like a small dip.
Right.
Otherwise, thematically, I think anything. Like, I would love to see a barbarian, the Beast Barbarian. We talked the other day about Beast Barbarian being like a dragon-esque one if you reflavor a lot of its beast paths or I guess body change options when it rages as dragon theme stuff. That's super cool. I love the idea of flying into battle and jumping off, raging, and then getting, more draconic features along with your Drake.
Yeah, that's really cool.
There's definitely a lot of, I think this is like the point of it is like a a knight atop a dragon. I think that's a thing in Dragonlance. Dragonlance setting people. Don't yell at me if I'm wrong. I just think I've seen pictures of that. I don't know much about the Dragonlance setting, but I could definitely see that concept of a heroic knight atop a flying winged beast that they have tamed is just kind of cool. So do that with like fighter. I could see the samurai subclass, not for mechanics. Again, I don't have them in front of me, so I forget, but just thematically, I like that image.
Mm-hmm. And I like
because it's a dragon.
Because it's
and dragons and ninjas and stuff.
No, I actually wasn't putting that together. It's more of what you said forever ago of the samurai being more of the honor warrior. Like that's the real theme that it should be going for. I didn't really put the samurai and dragon thing together, but yeah, I guess that is a bit on the nose.
Because there is like the cavalier.
Oh my gosh, the cavalier, of course.
Themed.
Good call.
And the purple dragon knight, which is just its own weird thing.
No, that wouldn't work. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I actually do wonder now if cavalier would have any good overlap. Because that's,
advantage on saving throws from falling off your mounts.
A 3-level dip would be pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and then if you fall off no more than 10 feet, you could land on your feet. It only costs 5 feet of movement to mount or dismount.
Yeah.
So it's half your movement to do that, isn't it?
Normally,
mount or
yes.
dismount usually. Yeah, okay, so that's nice. And then
and it's worth noting this is a good multi-class. Like a dipping fighter is not like, whoa, blowing my mind stuff, but it's like a great dip.
It's just solid.
Right. Yeah, you can just do Dex and Wisdom.
And as we've always talked about with Ranger, you want 3 levels in something else if you're going to the tippy top. So
definitely.
I could easily see taking a pit stop at, I'm just going to say 8th level. It doesn't matter what level. But taking a stop at some point to take 3 levels into Fighter just to get all the goodness that Fighter gets you. The different fighting style, action surge, second wind, and then all this Cavalier stuff would be fantastic.
Yeah, that actually be really cool. And I would want to still go melee based just for the imagery of it, because I like, even like you were with the barbarian one too, any of them that would work, of you and your Drake side by side fighting into something, as opposed to like you in the back taking pot shots with your longbow as your Drake's up there. It's like, that's probably the more optimal way to play it.
Well,
it's safer for you and kind of let the Drake tank, so to speak, because it's significantly more expendable because it's just one spell slot and it comes back. But I like that imagery too much of you and your Drake side by side up in the fray, tearing through your enemies.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So I think a lot of multi-classing potential, honestly, and doesn't need much as long as you can just go 3 levels into something. I think you could get a pretty big boost out of it. And I think 3 levels is safe with, we were talking about, the health aspect. I think you'd still be okay. Like sacrificing 15 HP for a huge amount of potential. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
What I probably wouldn't go is Rogue, just because a lot of bonus action requirements there. Just a lot of bonus action stuff.
But yeah, lots to do with your bonus action. Yeah.
Could be some benefit having your Drake be able to
sneak
attack,
yeah,
but
I was gonna say. That's pretty nice.
Officially, okay, I might actually be taking that back because it can move without you commanding it, right? In combat, the Drake shares your initiative count. It can move and use its reaction on its own. So you could officially just not use the bite and still get the reaction and everything, and make it more focused on taking damage and giving you the sneak attack, basically like a really souped up familiar.
Sure.
But that gives you your infused strikes as well.
Yeah, and as a rogue, you don't necessarily need to use your bonus action every turn. It's to dash, disengage, or hide.
Yeah, but you're gonna use it every turn.
I don't. I think you're too lenient about hiding as a bonus action. We could talk about that separate, but
yeah, it's just so weird. And every time we've talked about it, I feel like it's just odd as a whole, and I don't love the way hiding works, just in general.
Yeah, so if that becomes more of a strict thing to be able to do it, and then, dash and disengage as a bonus action, you may not want to.
Right. That's true. All right. Anything else around the Drakewarden?
No, I think we're pretty thorough there. Overall, I'm happy with it. I like it.
Me too. Yeah.
I'd be interested in playing one. Like, I know our campaign's coming to an end and we're talking about like the kind of adventures, a month or two long stuff coming up. One of us might need me a Drakewarden. If we got a higher level one.
You've talked about wanting to do an Artificer. You've talked about wanting to do a Drakewarden.
I know. It's
maybe you're just going to play Hiccup.
Yeah, maybe I'll just play Hiccup.
Yeah. All right. Then
I want to play a Stars Druid. That could fit in there, right?
Just multi-class at all. That's how you play every character, is just take every single multi-class.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Always supposed to say that stuff earlier, but I haven't. Hopefully you've stuck around. And if you have stuck around, show some appreciation with a comment or a subscribe or whatever. Thank you, as usual, to our affiliates, Metallic Dice Games. If you want to get 10% off your dice order, you can use the code MM10, and we get a bit of the proceeds there. So check them out. They've got amazing, not just metallic dice, but also crystal dice and more reasonable just resin dice. All of them are absolutely beautiful, though. And as mentioned, we do have a giveaway for this book. If you want to get your hands on it and haven't yet, or maybe you want a digital copy and you've already got a physical, or already have a digital and want a physical, whatever, we're not going to ask you if you already own it. You can head on over to the link in the description and enter in. And lastly, thank you as always to our patrons, Jeth W, Joe P, Vincent M, Isaac M, Sentinel D20, Star Shinobi, Adam A, Home Bakery, Ed G, Bob F, and Craig A. You all are awesome and help support the show, and we appreciate you endlessly. Exponentially.
It's getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Appreciation.
And that's all I got.
Cool. As always, thanks for watching.